Welcome to the Market Mystics podcast. I'm Joshua.
I'm Kim. Let's dive in. Hey everybody, welcome back.
Welcome back. How is it going? We are now we're in October. It's not just like we were just tiptoeing. We're in the middle now. How's it feel? How's the year feel?
I think it feels pretty decent. It's weird to be in the last quarter of 2024. I feel like I've only just gotten used to writing the date of 2024, like not having to mark out 2023.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty good. It's wild to think, we're 76 episodes into this season.
Yeah.
Which is super wild.
Really crazy.
Here's a fun fact. We actually haven't missed a single episode this season.
That's true. We've done really well.
We have a cushion and we can miss 4, but we've not missed any.
That's true. No, we've done really well with being consistent this year. And actually, there's a Facebook group that I'm part of that's for Christian podcasters. And I think that's actually just what it's called. And somebody posted on there hey, who here has made it past 100 episodes? And because that's a really big milestone for podcasting. 100 episodes takes a while to get there, especially depending on how often you record. But just in general, it takes a while to get to 100 episodes. Mm-hmm. And so I just posted in there hey, I think we had just crossed 270 episodes. And so I posted in there that we had reached that. And it was really cool to see some of the places other people were at. There was a fair number that were over 100, but there was a lot that were still under 100, still working towards it. And then when I posted that we were at 270, we got a couple of different comments, but one of them, this guy was like, "That's so amazing. That's really impressive. What's been the hardest part of that journey?" And honestly, the hardest part is just showing up. Just the consistency part has been one of the challenges, but it is feel pretty amazing to our goal by the end of the year. If we stay on track, we'll have released 300 episodes in 3 years of podcasting, and that's pretty amazing.
From where we started, absolutely.
Yeah.
We kind of started on, I don't even know I'd call it a whim, but it was okay, I guess we're doing this thing. And we didn't know where it would go.
Mm-hmm.
And it really has been quite the process and quite the journey.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, it started kind of on a whim, but also we sort of had some thoughts, and just to see the evolution of it, the way it's changed, how it's grown, how we've grown through it. Mm-hmm. If you were there in the first season, thank you very much for sticking with us, because there's been more than one. There's been some growing pains, I think.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
We're working on it, though. But to stick with our newest tradition, we have some questions from a kid, or we have a question from a kid. And today,
Josh, I feel like we should make a jingle, insert
play a
jingle.
little sound clip.
Yeah.
We could do that. But today, the question, it's not so simple. It's a little bit deep, and I kind of like it. So the question today is, what is your soul, and what does it do?
I love it. And we can actually shout out to who asked this one. So this question is from Weston, and he's 11 years old.
Thank you, Weston, for the question.
I know, I really like it. Simple answer. Josh, what would be your super simple condensed answer? And then we'll go into deeper ones.
Your soul's you. Like, it's the thoughts that you have, the personality that you have, the way you think. Yeah, I think that is a lot of your soul.
That's good. I would say similar. I would say it's your mind, your will, and your emotions. So yes, that in which the way that you think, your will, so the things that you want and want to do, and the way that you feel. And I think that is kind of a good summation of what the soul is. Obviously, it's a lot deeper than that because you have a lot of thoughts and you have a lot of feelings and you want a lot of things, like whether it be food for dinner or what you want your life to look like, right?
Yeah. My new favorite thing to do when we have questions from kids is to put it into ChatGPT and see how it answers. Because it's really just a collection of our thoughts. So I was curious how it would answer. And it says that the soul is the seat of consciousness. It is the moral and ethical compass, and it is the connection to the divine.
That's interesting. That connection to the divine, I don't know if I would agree wholeheartedly with that, but I do think it is the part of you that understands the spirit that you have, like you have your own spirit, but also how that connects with the Holy Spirit. And I think it is your soul that lets you understand that.
Yeah, I would say something very similar. Like, I've had this thought for a few years that the soul it's the interpreter of the spirit. And so like that's it maybe maybe isn't quite the divine thing in the way we were just talking about it. But that it is it's the lens with which we view the divine through.
That's super interesting. So what do you think, this is a strange question, but what do you think it would look like for a human or for humankind to not have a soul, just have a body and a spirit?
I don't know that I can even imagine what that might be like.
It feels like so far out, right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe my instinct is like maybe a bit robotic. Like, is that what AI is like? Like, it has some form, but it doesn't really have personality. It can't connect with anything beyond its physical place that it's located. I think the soul is what lets us connect with the higher parts. Like, I think your soul is, or your spirit is what is connected, but I think your soul is what allows you to understand that, to experience that.
I think your soul is also one of the things that makes you so uniquely human. Because, I believe that God created us and that He created us in His image. But I also believe that He gave us free will, which is kind of that big part of, this is definitely part of your soul. Like, you get to choose. And so in that, I think it is your soul that really gets to experience things like love, most deeply, because you get to choose to love or not to love. And that's one of the kind of basic characteristics of love, is that it can't be forced, right? But it is an act of your will to do so. And I think that's a super special part of the soul. I think that is what I love how you talk about it being the interpreter of the spirit. I think it's kind of the thing that connects with other people on a deeper level than more than just like, I don't know, oh, we go to the same school, but maybe more like, oh, we have the same favorite color. Oh, we like the same foods. Oh, we both have a sister and a brother. You know what I mean? Like, I think there are some things that you get to connect more deeply on than just shared space in the soul.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great way to put it. And I think it like leads well into before we recorded, we were watching a video on just the thought process on what if you approached life as like a human Tamagotchi. Like you're born and you're given a human to take care of. How would you take care of it? And most of us do not take care of ourselves the way we would if we were given the responsibility to take care of another life.
Yeah, that's true. I thought that was such an interesting way of looking at it, because it is kind of connected to what we're talking about. It is like your spirit is already existing, and you are given this human body and this soul to take care of. And I have never thought of things this way before. I am a parent, and I know what it's like to be responsible for another human being. But I've never thought of it as myself, like as being responsible for this human.
Right.
And making sure that this human is cared for. And one of the things they talked about in that video, it was super, I guess it's deep, but it's not deep. It's very obvious. Is like just a perspective shift of thinking that who is the best person that can take care of this human? It is you. You know? And it's not that others can't care for you or care for you well. It is just that what if you were put here to care for this human, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about how probably this idea that you're a spirit that has a soul that lives in a body. Like I've heard that a lot growing up. And if you look at it from that perspective, I'm not saying that perspective is correct. I think there's some nuance to it that probably isn't there. But if you look at it from that perspective, your spirit was given this body to take care of. Your spirit was given this human to take care of. And what's that look like?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and even I also tend to believe that when we're born, we are born with purpose and kind of, I would say, a destiny or like a point to why we're here. And I think it's really interesting because we're obviously given a body and a soul to work with while we are in the earth. And so it's a fascinating thing to think that I have this destiny or this purpose, but I need to be able to care for this person, this human, this body and this soul so that together we can outwork this purpose. As opposed to, I've been of the school of thinking, I mean, I was for many years thinking that, oh, these things just get in the way. Like, oh, my body just gets in the way. Oh, my soul just gets in the way. Like, if I could just do what my spirit needs to do, like, it needs to be the one in charge. It needs to, you know what I mean? But I think there's an element of really coming together and being the one being, really, and operating in all of these things together to outwork and fulfill what you're supposed to be doing.
Right. Yeah. I really think it's the oneness within you. We've talked about this, but like what comes to my mind when it's like taking care of your human is the like love your neighbor as yourself. Well, to like that in and of itself limits you to loving other people to the extent that you love yourself. And I liked what that video said about love isn't necessarily a feeling as much as it is a job description. Like you don't have to like yourself to love yourself. And in fact, the liking yourself will come through loving yourself. And then you'll do things and you're like, oh, like that was really good. I'm really proud of myself for doing that. And then you start to like who you are. But that first has to come through loving yourself. And I think loving yourself is I don't know which one comes first, but it's connected with having a clean conscience, like living in a way that you like you're choosing things that are you feel good about. Like that living in that type of life allows you space to love yourself, because if you don't live that type of life, then you're already condemning yourself and living in guilt and shame, and it's, I would say, impossible to love when you feel guilty and ashamed.
That's so hard. That's so hard because I think those are some of the feelings, like the guilty and the ashamed. I think those are some of the biggest things that will also hold us back from doing what we're supposed to do and being who we're supposed to be. And it really is through that process of allowing yourself to be loved even by yourself first, so that you can be loved by others, so that you can love others. And a lot of times it's a lot of junk that you've got to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm guilty of this. I feel like there have been things that I've done in my life that I just want to push aside. If we could just pretend like that didn't happen and move on. But sometimes I got to look at those parts that aren't so pretty and I'm not so proud of and deal with them and reconcile them in whatever way it needs to be reconciled before I can truly like step out and do what I'm supposed to do. Because then it's just a little more, it's like it's not full. It's like it's a little emptier than it should be.
Yeah. I think it's hard to maintain success or movement if you feel guilty about having that. And like I've seen that a lot with money and like a poverty mindset where you you have a belief about who you are, and then all of a sudden something maybe starts to change. Maybe you get a job that's a little bit higher salary, and then there's an internal struggle to figure out, well, am I actually worthy of that? And until you figure it out, um, until the conflict is resolved in you, you might be able to stay there for a while. You might be able to stay there for quite a while. It kind of depends on your willpower. But I think ultimately you will do things that sabotage your success. So whether that's growing with the Lord, like, do you feel guilty and condemned? It's real hard to approach someone who you think is all powerful, who created you, if you feel guilty and condemned about who you are, who they are. So, like, that's the first thing you got to work through. And then how do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about your job? How do you feel about your purpose? Do you feel like you are on track for your purpose, like, where there's so many pieces of it that are connected to, like, being able to truly love yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, I would say this, I don't think it's the easiest thing, or maybe
It's
not for
probably the hardest
everyone.
thing.
Is it the easiest thing? Yeah. But I'll tell you what is a really good first step, like a really helpful step, is that if it is difficult for you to love yourself or to really put aside those things, I would say approach the Lord anyway. Like, approach the Father. And even if it is just to say, I just need to sit in your love,
Mm,
and allow yourself to get comfortable sitting in that place where all it is adoration for you and appreciation of who you are because he made you and because he loves you just for you. Like, to be able to sit in that space, it can be really uncomfortable at first, but the more comfortable you get with it and the more used to it, the easier it will be to allow yourself to feel those things about yourself too.
yeah.
Some people may just fly right through that and don't even need that step. And I am proud of you. But some people really do need that too. Like, I don't know that society as a whole has taught us how to love ourselves for who we truly are. At least not well,
Mm,
or maybe not the part of society that I've grown up in. And it's not a pride thing. Um, it's not thinking more of yourself than you ought to. It is thinking of yourself to the capacity that God thinks of you,
yeah.
which is actually much higher than most people would want to admit.
Yeah. Yeah. Just on your comment on, like, it's not easy, like, I think it's probably like learning to really love yourself and to walk with a clean conscience is probably one of the hardest things you'll do, because I think everything flows from that. So you get the foundation correct and everything else will be all right. But I would also, like, similarly to you, I would encourage people to not wait until they feel worthy, to start pursuing it, because growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone generally. And so sometimes you have to push that box of what you feel comfortable with in order to like open up the door, to open up a new feeling. Like, maybe you didn't even know you didn't feel worthy to have $1 million until you had $10,000. Maybe you didn't know you didn't feel worthy to uh, approach the throne until you spent a moment praying. Like, there's sometimes you have to take steps, and I think the taking the steps is often discounted in taking steps is discounted because of the idea of the end goal being the only thing that matters. But it's it's that journey, it's that step by step, inching your box further out, pushing your comfort zone, growing in who you are, that you'll really that's I mean, that'll make it easier to love yourself when you all of a sudden like, man, I did that really hard thing and it worked and I did it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think that's really good. I just keep thinking about I keep thinking about this like it's a discipline.
Mm,
Um, the good kind of discipline, like it's a practice,
yeah.
right? And the more you do it, the more comfortable with it you will get, and the more it will become second nature. And then at some point, you don't even have to consciously do it because it's just what you do. It's kind of like riding a bike. When you first ride a bike, you have to figure out your balance. Like, you're not going to be able to just go,
Yeah.
right? I was just watching videos last week with my daughter. In the first few days that she was learning how to ride without training wheels. And it was really cool to see the progression because it was at first super wobbly, would maybe get her feet off the ground for a split second and go a little bit. But the more she did it, like she found her balance, and then she was able to start getting her feet on the pedals, and then she was able to start getting some rotation in there, and then she was able to also steer at the same time and not just run into something, and it's like it really is a discipline. And I think of this the same way. It may not be easy in the beginning, and it may feel like hard work, and it may feel like I'm just not going to get it. But the more you put yourself in that position and just try it anyway, the easier it'll get. And then you might get to a point where it's like, I just know these things. I'm there. I know these things. I know what it feels like to be loved. So I know how to love.
Yeah, that's so good. Knowing how to be loved. What a goal.
What a goal. Okay. Well, this was a good convo, Josh. And I appreciate Weston for bringing up the question about the soul. Really good.
Thank you, Weston, for the great question.
Hey, thanks for listening. Keep up with us along this journey by liking, subscribing, and becoming a member through YouTube.
Members get exclusive access to bonus content with our guests, deeper dives into topics, and a look into other projects. We're glad to have you here. See you next time.